Hey guys, what's up? And today I'm going to talk about why Kenny Atkinson would be a great hire for the Oklahoma City Thunder, because I do not think he has been hired yet. I'm like 90% sure that he hasn't been hired yet, though I have heard rumors of him going to the Clippers potentially on Tyronn Lue's staff. But before I get into it, I want to say hopefully Andy Dalton's okay. Bad hit by John Bostic, a Washington football team player. Andy Dalton got knocked out, concussion. I hope he's okay, because that did not look good. He was like unconscious on the ground. So hopefully he is okay. Yeah, Kenny Atkinson used to be the Brooklyn Nets coach, now a free agent after they fired him, replaced him with Steve Nash. Probably not a great hire. Yeah, I don't think it's that good of a hire. No offense. But, yeah, I'll just be talking about why I think the Thunder should hire Kenny Atkinson. So first off, it's not that big of a market. It won't be like he has a ton of pressure on him. I don't know if that's good, but, in Brooklyn, no one was really paying attention that much. And they were paying attention to D'Lo, but not to him. It was the Knicks, but he led that team. So remember, I think it wasn't this year, it was last year. He led the D'Lo, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie. Karis LeVert was out for a bit, but Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris was pretty good that year. Jarrett Allen, that was like his monster block year. To the playoffs, made it close with the Nets, and then played about half a season before the Nets fired him. Don't think they should have fired him. I think they at least should have gave him a chance to compete with KD and Kyrie. I mean, you can't blame him for not winning with Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert. You really can't blame him for that. But it's not like they were doing that good. No, they were doing pretty underrated in the bubble. But, I mean, they weren't doing that good without him. But, yeah, the Thunder. I think the Thunder are a perfect match, because it's kind of like a situation that, a situation that the Nets had also. Not the exact same situation, but it's kind of the same, which I would take. And with the Thunder, you're most likely not going to have Chris Paul next year. I don't think they'll keep him. This is as high as his trade value it will ever be in the future. Yeah, this is as high as his trade value will ever be. They really need to trade Chris Paul soon. And, they have their, not star guard, but really emerging guard in Gilgeous-Alexander. Remember, with the Nets, D'Lo is considered to be potentially a bust, as he just had not turned out to be what we hoped with the Lakers. Shea's on the other side. He looks really good, and next year he could have his breakout year. Of course, Kenny Atkinson, he helped D'Lo have his breakout year. Maybe he could help Shea have his breakout year. Then they have a group of veterans like they did in the Nets with I cannot think right now. Like Joe Harris, that group of vets. A lot of forwards. They're veterans. Yeah, that's weird. Like Taurean Prince. I don't know if they had him then, but I think they might have had no, they didn't have DeAndre Jordan. Joe Harris, though, they have some vets. They have some vets with the Thunder. I think Spencer Dinwiddie, I mean, he isn't that young. Yeah, he's 27. With the Thunder, vets like Dennis Schroeder, potentially Chris Paul if he returns, Danilo Gallinari if he returns, Steven Adams. But also just, I think, a team that really has no expectations. That's what it is. The Nets didn't have any expectations when D'Lo's there. It was really just finding out, is D'Lo what we all hoped and wished he was? Which he is. Maybe not on the defensive side, but on the offense, he is incredible. well, we really need to figure that out with Shea, if he can be an all-NBA type of player, which I do believe he can be. I think he can be a top 10 player. Top 5 players is ceiling, I believe. I don't think he'll ever get to that, but I think he is an all-NBA player. But they really need to find how good Shea is. I think the third year will be a very good determining factor of that. As this year, tremendous year. 19 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Throughout the playoffs, 16, 4, and 5. So it wasn't as good. But it's going to be really interesting to see how they did. Remember, he led the Nets to the playoffs. They were not supposed to go to the playoffs that year. But I think also is not even a good move for this year, but just like 2 or 3 years in the future, when the Thunder have those picks, because they're going to get a ton of picks from the Clippers. I believe they're going to get some picks from the Rockets, and then they're going to get their own picks. So they're going to have a ton of first-round picks. Kenny Atkinson, I think, is great with younger players. Karis LeVert isn't that young and isn't that old. He's 26, and Dinwiddie isn't that young, but he isn't that old. Nicholas Claxton, he's 21. Jarrett Allen, is he like 23? 22. Rodion Skirks, 22. He had a young team when they went to the playoffs. Not that young of a team, but they had kind of a young team. They had some younger players. That's what I think the Thunder are going to have. And it's going to be really interesting to see if the Thunder are going to try and tank or try and make the playoffs, or try and make the playoffs and not make the playoffs. Because next year, next year it's going to be stacked. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Jazz, the Mavericks with Luka in his third year, healthy Trailblazers, Grizzlies, Suns, Spurs, Kings, Pelicans, Timberwolves, Warriors. That's like 15 teams that can make the playoffs, I think. The worst chance, I think, is the Kings or the Spurs. The Spurs, probably because they didn't make the playoffs this year and they're not that young. Aldridge and DeRozan are aging, but if they can stay healthy and Murray and White have breakout years, they could make it. Or the Kings, because this year was supposed to be the year that they really broke out and made the playoffs. They didn't. I am not very confident in the Kings' youth, which I was before this season. I'm very confident in the youth. I thought they were going to make it. I've been a Buddy Hield fan since college, but it looks like they're going to trade Buddy Hield. The Harrison Barnes contract was just horrible. It was horrible when they signed it. And they could also trade Bogdanovich. It looks like big moves are coming to the Kings. And it might be time to just blow it up and try and get a new, just young core. But it's really going to be stacked. I don't think the Thunder are making the playoffs, which I thought they were going to make the playoffs last year, at least compete for the playoffs. I don't think they're making the playoffs this year. If they keep Chris Paul, they might. But if they trade Chris Paul for picks, I think it'll be really tough. Not because they're not a good enough team. They would easily make the playoffs in the East. They'd probably be like a 5 seed in the East. Probably beat the Thunder. 76ers, because their 76ers don't get injured. But, I think Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, those are all locks to make the playoffs. Rockets, most likely a lock, but they did show some weaknesses at the start of last year that it looked like they weren't going to make the playoffs then. Mavericks aren't a lock only because of Luka and KP's injury problems. If they weren't injury prone, they would be a lock. Jazz are not a lock because we don't know what's happening with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. Trailblazers not a lock because of injuries. Then, the rest of the teams, they didn't even make the playoffs. Warriors aren't a lock. We don't know Curry and Clay coming back. Timberwolves, they have D'Lo and Cap. We haven't seen them play yet. Pelicans, Zion, injury concerns. I already said why the Kings and Spurs. Suns, maybe that A-Dove thing was just a fluke. They were 26 and 39 before that. They were bad. The Grizzlies, we don't know if Ja is really going to have a breakout second year. And just how stacked the West is. But the Thunder, I think Kenny Atkinson would be a great fit with them. Great fit with most likely a rebuilding team. Now, if they keep Chris Paul, he probably won't be a great fit. But he would probably be a good fit to go on the assistant coach. Just get on the team so then in a couple of years when they have all those picks, he can really manage all those picks, because I think he's great with young guys. And I would also want to see him coach a team that is a contender. But I want to see him build up that team like he did with the Nets. It's kind of disappointing that he didn't try and make that team. Like, at least just, like, get a good assistant coach. Get, like, Steve Nash as your assistant coach. If you don't like it, just fire him. I mean, I don't know. I would at least like to give him a shot, but if Katie and Kyrie don't want it, they're getting rid of him. But, yeah, guys, tell me who you want to see Kenny Atkinson with. I really think he would be a good fit with Thunder just because of the rebuilding in at least a couple years from now. But, yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Be healthy, stay safe, and peace.